Patricia May Andrzejewski is a hard name to pronounce, especially when you see how it's spelled. There's a J in it for some reason. Thank goodness she fell in love and married a fella named Dennis Benatar. And that brings us to the name of the performer we all know and love, Pat Benatar, inducted in 2022 into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. She's a hard rockin' singer born mere footsteps from where this podcast is recorded and produced, Greenpoint, Brooklyn. Her folks moved her out to Lindenhurst, New York when she was a little girl. That's out in Long Island. She was recognized pretty early on as a singer with great skill and promise when she sang during a school production of Camelot. So she started taking voice lessons and was even accepted into Juilliard. But the problem was Dennis Benatar. He was drafted to go to Vietnam, so she married him, proved her love, and became a bank teller outside of Richmond, Virginia. It didn't take her too long before she had an epiphany, decided she needed to get back to New York City and relive those dreams and goals that she initially had as a singer. Not just any old singer, a female rock singer. You know, in those days, that was a thing that hardly existed. Until now. Pat Benatar came and changed the game, and that's where our journey begins. Hello, friends. Welcome to
This Day May Be Your Food.
That's right. This band could be your food, and I am your host, Nathan Palin. Happy 2023, and thanks for joining me today. For the next hour or so, I'm going to be discussing Pat Benatar with New York City's #1 Benatar fan, Cathy Cervenka. She's the curator of Cathyland, which has been a staple here in Gotham City. She's been known to do tributes for the likes of Madonna, Stevie Nicks, and of course, her all-time fave, Pat Benatar. Not only that, but we also put together a reflective dish, food if you will, that we think Pat Benatar would be if she were a food. We're going to tell you how to make that dish, make that food, and how to eat it. Well, you know how to eat it, whatever. Let's start by going down that road and see where it takes us. And first, let me please ask you a moment of your time and effort. If you like this show, please subscribe to it and rate it on Apple Podcasts. Tell your friends what we're doing here. Just try to explain this to someone. It's fun. Your support makes me want to do more episodes, which makes the winter depression more tolerable. Tell me that you love me. Actually, tell other people that you love me, and thank you for that. It really brightens my whites. Anyways, here's me and Cathy Cervenka talking about all things Pat Benatar. I learned a lot of things. Well, cool. Well, thanks for coming out to Greenpoint.
You're welcome.
The very place that Pat Benatar was born.
I know. That was bizarre when I saw that on the internet.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I heard it on a
couldn't
podcast.
Either. I thought it was really cool of you to move to Greenpoint for this show.
I mean, you know, I'm really dedicated.
You're really good.
Absolutely. At least I can do.
I don't know how you do it.
Totally. And it works out well because, you know, to get the proper food that we're going to eventually get to, had to be here for it. Where I mean, you can get it other places, but here you can get a wide variety of different things. But I don't want to spoil it just yet.
Okay.
So, yeah, everyone hipped me to you, and I've known about you in town because you do these Pat Benatar shows.
Yes, I do.
These tribute shows.
Yes, I do.
And let me be honest with you. You know, I've slightly unfairly panned Pat Benatar in my life as like a younger guy. Pat Benatar has been a staple on radio, which is, you know, a big thing. I mean, I feel like she's one of those few artists that was able to like penetrate, you know, we'll say classic rock radio in like real time, like while it's happening, like your Tom Petty or something like that. Like she was just kind of born to be on a classic rock radio station, like alongside all the classic rock bands. So it's been a lot of fun. So like, you know, having, and it's just been all of a sudden, like all these little pepperings of, you know, have you really listened to Shadows of the Night recently? And it's like, oh my God, it's such a great song. And then like a band I was in, we did Heartbreaker. Holy crap. One of the greatest songs ever.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
So
it's a showstopper and starter.
Yeah, for sure.
For me,
totally.
Personally.
Is it? You do the beginning and the end?
I mean, if you had ever seen one of my shows, you would know the famous story of how I even ever thought I would be a performer or how I got started at all is about Heartbreaker. It's all about that song.
Yeah.
To the point that literally people, including my mother, if it comes on a radio or they're in the car or whatever, they will have to send me a message.
Yeah.
They're in the car. Like as if it's, you know what I mean? Like it's my song.
Sure.
You're a heartbreaker, dream maker, love taker, don't you mess around with me. You're a
No, but the story
great song
is
to have.
I lived it was a John Hughes movie come to life. I'm from a conservative, preppy town in Florida called Winter Park. It's outside Orlando.
Okay.
It was in the preppy handbook. So that's like all you need to know. And I was preppy. I was like the goody two shoes girl my whole life, like straight A's. Like I literally wore the Papagallo purse and the matching topsiders and the socks matched the belt. I mean, it was over the top. I didn't really feel comfortable in it. Like I knew it wasn't who I was, but I didn't know what I was or who I was.
Sure.
And in high school, after never having done any performing per se, singing wise, I ended up finding Pat Benatar, on the radio. And when I first saw her, I was like, that I can do that. That's like me. Like she's short. She had no boobs, and at the time they called her the no-knocker rocker.
Really?
Which I, of course, was proud to be another no-knocker rocker.
Sure.
Unfortunately, no longer, with age. But she just looked, I was like, I could be that, I could do that. And the songs she was singing were like tough, F you, guys kind of songs. And that's how I thought I was. I was like, I feel like that. I don't feel like a girly girl, right?
Yeah.
So I saw her, and just in some wild fantasy I had, I said, I can do that. And so I conned my boyfriend at the time. I was in 10th grade and he was older. He was in the only band we had in high school, and they were called, here's another story. Here's another podcast for you.
Sure.
They were called the Termites.
Nice.
As a tribute to the Beatles. And they were the only band we had in our preppy, boring, conservative town.
Yeah.
And so they would play 60s British garage rock, right?
Cool.
And they were like hired by every rich family to play by the pool at their parties and stuff. So, of course, I fell in love with the drummer. Of course, I then was thinking secretly, I was secretly in my LL Bean sweaters saying, I know I can be something else. And so I conned them into playing Heartbreaker for the talent show in high school. And I had my best friend whip up this mini skirt, crazy outfit with fishnets and pumps.
All right.
I do not know how my parents let me out of the house. I think my dad wasn't too excited about it. I somehow traipsed over to the high school auditorium, never done this before, and they played Heartbreaker, probably pretty badly. I wish there was a video of it.
Yeah.
And
it's a tough song.
It is. And I won this show.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know. And I beat my boyfriend's band, and they were pissed. They were really mad.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then a new star
And
was
the star
born.
was born.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You didn't try to, your boyfriend was the guitar player of the other band?
Drummer.
The drummer.
He was the
okay.
drummer.
Did you? Okay, so he was already. I'm trying to make some segue of you like trying to seduce the guitar player of the band.
No, it didn't happen.
Because
I wish. If I had ever found a Neil Giraldo, I wouldn't even be talking to you right now.
all of us in
I'd
the
be
world
so
would
famous
be better
right
off
now.
if we had a Neil Giraldo in our lives. Neil Thomas Giraldo, who has been Pat Benatar's guitarist, co-songwriter, and co-musical director for the Pat Benatar Band, was born December 29th, 1955 in Cleveland, Ohio. Another key element to the story is that shortly after joining the band, he becomes Pat Benatar's lover and eventual husband. That's what we're talking about. More on that shortly. So, I don't know if you listener know that much about Pat Benatar. Obviously, we're talking about her a lot more because she finally got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I can sleep at night.
Yeah. Crazy that she hasn't been for this long.
Yeah. I was very angry. I was carrying a lot of anger. I think sometimes that anger superseded the anger at the elections and other less important things, of course,
It really
than the
highlights
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
How unjustified the world can be.
It really is. No, but everyone knows I put up funny memes and posts every time
You led the
it
charge,
came up.
for sure.
I tried to lead the charge. I went to Rock and Roll Hall of Fame just to put a vote in, even though it's irrelevant. The audience vote means nothing. But it visually meant something at Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So I got to press the button,
Yeah.
And
not only, she was like the number one fan voted artist last year, right? When she was in there.
She's always and was always in the top 3. Like if you went to the Hall of Fame where they have live voting all the time on this machine, then they have a thing. She's always been there in the top 10s. That's why this whole thing is, I mean, we all know Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is a joke.
Of course.
And here's the thing.
And a boys club.
And I always said to people, yeah, we know it's a joke, but to regular people who don't know how the industry works, right? It's on paper. It's a record. It goes down in history. So she should be there.
Absolutely.
That's all I cared about, was that she was there with everybody else. Who cares about Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
For sure. But yeah, she should be thought because, she has sung some of the greatest songs that are out
absolutely.
there,
and has records literally records of records, for a female artist specifically, that's other people have never surpassed in terms of rock.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the second video ever played on MTV after Video Killed the Radio Star. It's a little thumbtack. Yeah. And then also recently figured out, it also said that the guitar player, Neil, that was the first guitar player that was on. Because obviously
that's correct.
First song is nothing but synthesizers. So
that's right.
One of those little weird side things. But
yeah.
Anywho, let's start talking about the food.
Okay.
So when I initially thought of Pat Benatar, her story is, she was sort of plucked out because she had an amazing voice. Somebody recognized her talent when she was very young. She was born in Greenpoint here in Brooklyn. So we are standing
at the home of
footsteps away from like where she was born. I mean, I don't think she didn't live here for very long.
I don't think so.
Eventually she made it out to Long Island.
Lindenhurst, Long Island.
I'm going to go ahead and say a pretty ordinary suburban-y kind of a community.
Yep.
And then after she was like working on her dreams for a little while, becoming a better singer, she got an audition at Juilliard.
Right.
But was in love with this fella, Dennis Benatar. So those of you playing at home, Pat's real name, do you know can you pronounce her real name?
I don't know how to pronounce it. I was going to look it up. It's Andrew Jukowski?
Yeah, I think that the J is pronounced like a Y. Andrew Jukowski or something?
I think it's Jukowski.
Something like
we can look it up. If
yeah. Her father's Polish.
Yeah.
So
clearly.
Yeah, you think so?
From the name. No, I mean that name. Come on.
100%. Yeah. But I heard her in an interview. She like claimed herself as being Irish.
Her mom is Irish. I think 3 things: German, Irish, and
English. Yeah, I looked it up too. So, and so, she gave up her dreams to marry Mr. Benatar.
Yeah.
And then because he was enlisted in the army and was being sent to Vietnam, right? So she wanted to be there for him. She gave up her dreams. Yep. She moved to Richmond, outside Richmond, Virginia, and became, let's say, a housewife and a bank teller. She was a bank teller.
Yep.
Just living your regular housewife sort of life.
But let's be clear, she's really young. So it's not like,
she's 19, 20.
It's not like she's toiling away for, it's pretty fast in terms of your whole life. But
it took her about 3 years for her to wake up, right? She saw a Liza Minnelli performance.
Right.
Come taste the wine. Come hear the band. Come blow that horn. Start celebrating. Right this way, your table's waiting. No use permitting some profit.
And that was a pivoting moment. She had said, I'm better than her.
Right. Or I can do that. I mean, I think we all start that way in some.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure I could trace back shows I saw.
Then she kind of like leaves her suburban lifestyle because she wants to be a singer and she gives up her dreams. So and meanwhile, she's still married. So she's sort of like working and then.
And she sang in some bands.
She did. Yeah. That first band. Well, I think she started working at this place where it was like a singing / waitress
right,
job.
One of those
where, you just kind of deliver your
fun
food
places.
and then jump up on stage and say, the Roaring Twenties. That was the name of the place. Yeah. And then she became kind of paired up, I think, with a piano player. Something Coxton was his last name.
Yep.
And then they started a band called Coxton's Army. They were like a 10-piece group. But the point I'm getting at is that she's always had this sort of like housewifey sort of thing.
Yep.
So to me, I'm when I think of a housewife and a food, I immediately think of a tater tot casserole. So,
well, you got the Irish in there, right?
Yeah,
and,
you got the potatoes.
That's good.
Are
Good
in
idea.
There. You know, it's like another it's like an Americanized
suburban
version of like a shepherd's pie, more or less. But then you were highlighting the fact that she's Polish.
Yeah.
So and her family is very much a foodie kind of family. Like her husband Neil loves the food, and they also love meat.
Right. I saw that too.
He comes from, I think, Sicilian descent. So I was like, do I throw Italian food in there? But considering that we're in Greenpoint, it would be a shame if we did not add kielbasa to whatever it is we're making. So we are making a kielbasa and cabbage tater tot casserole.
Yay!
Yeah, here we go.
Before you get to somewhere, you can stop.
The thing about Pat Benatar, though, to be clear, is always going to be there's not a lot to talk about her personal life because it's kind of too perfect.
Yeah,
and it's almost irritating, at least to me.
It kind of is.
I mean, for a rock star, she doesn't have any of the foibles and normal storylines that you're going to encounter. So it's almost like you're just reading a little story. It's not that's not the interesting part of Pat Benatar.
Sure. It's actually more about the music with her than it is like the controversy. Now she did she
There's
she
no
drink?
Controversy. I have no idea. And it's not an issue.
She has not succumbed to any sort of addictions.
Not that we're aware of.
Or any.
No.
Well, I mean, there is the saucy story of the two of them getting together. In the first place.
But it's more of a sexy story.
It
and
is.
When they tell it, they still look like they're going to attack each other. I mean, they love each other in a way that I can't. It's too much.
Yeah.
It's really too much.
As long as the two of them have been together. So,
and they seem like they still are just like that way. Which
they do.
There are people like that. Not many.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they did it in the industry, but I do think they're an anomaly, both of them. And of course, we're saying they. To me, the most interesting sort of, if you want to talk about controversy, is sort of the bringing in of Neil as her equal on billing.
For sure.
And how they're listed. So that's always a topic people ask me about.
Yeah. Well, let's get there.
Yeah.
Sure. We'll check back in with the story.
Let's rewind.
The storyline where we're at. Right now, she's been in this band, Coxton's Army.
Yeah.
And she's decided to leave them so that she can go to New York City. My understanding is she hears about Catch a Rising Star.
Right.
Okay. That's a little club. Is that Greenwich Village?
I think it was then.
I thought it was more known as a comedy store.
It was. It was.
But they had, I guess,
like a talent type, cabaret type venue at that time.
Now we have a special treat, a young lady who actually started here. And Rick Newman saw her and said, okay. One of the smartest things he ever did. And we're very proud to present her tonight. Please welcome Chrysalis recording star, the one and only Pat Benatar, ladies and gentlemen.
She would just go in and sing cabaret song, like the Liza Minnelli stuff, but then Judy Garland. And then also I think she got her claim to fame kind of doing a cabaret version of a Led Zeppelin song in there.
Oh, yeah?
So like, you know what I mean? She brought the rock and roll to this normally not rock and roll venue.
For sure.
So people were like, wow, right?
I mean, one
that must have been cool. I wish I could have heard that.
Cool. I mean, one thing that should be understated is like most musicians that are sort of brought up with like a schooling mentality, I feel rarely get into rock and roll. She, as we'd said, had been noticed her talent like right away. So she was training to be, I'd heard, a mezzo soprano, but also as a colorato. Are you familiar with this
No,
term?
I'm not.
This term is, it means that she can not only sing in one particular register, she just has a multi-octave voice.
Right.
So she can hit, like super high notes, super low notes, and you can hear
And I
it.
believe that, yeah.
Yeah, she's got such range and depth.
Yep.
So, a serious singer.
Yeah.
And, loved the Broadway, loved Liza Minnelli, but also when she was thinking about her sound, about what she wanted to do as a band, she was into like Led Zeppelin and the Rolling Stones and things like that. And so she just wanted to have a rock band, which I guess at that time, how much rock did we have from the ladies?
Yeah, it was a different kind of rock. You were looking at the 70s kind of rock,
Yeah.
sort of the California rockers and
Sure.
Stevie Nicks and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. They bring up like Susie Quattro. I feel like there's a parallel with Susie Quattro and her.
A little bit.
Like there might have been like a shared producer or something.
Yes, Mike Chapman for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what I'd heard.
But he did a lot of, early 80s ladies. He did Blondie and some other people too. So
yeah.
he was kind of that guy.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She got a gig. I think it was a 4-night gig at Tramps, which was like a cool club it was like, I actually went to it 100 years ago before it closed. It was over in like, I want to say, if I get this wrong, Michael T will be on me. I believe it was like in Chelsea Flatiron, like in that 20s.
Right.
And Chrysalis Records executive saw her sing there.
Okay.
And that was it. So then they signed her. Back in that day, they signed you as a talent.
Yeah.
And then they put together your record.
Totally.
Like it wasn't like, oh, what are you guys doing in this? It was like, hi, we want you, and now we're going to do this and this.
It's true.
So she got that assembled band.
Totally. So so many bands, like even you think of Elvis Costello and the Attractions. It's the exact same thing. Like his first album didn't feature the Attractions. His second record, the label's like, we should get you a band. And
like
they just
that.
called a bunch of random dudes.
Yep.
And the chemistry was right. Unfortunately for Pat Benatar's first round of recording, the record company got it wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
They just brought in some session musicians and she was really depressed about it. She was just like, this is my one chance and I have failed. And then somebody had said, listen, I know this guy, Neil Giraldo.
I don't think it was him yet, but yeah.
What's his name?
Giraldo.
Neil Giraldo. Well, this is embarrassing. So far, Cathy and I have said Neil's last name 2 ways incorrectly. It's not Giraldo or Giraldo. It's Giraldo. At least that's what Jane Pauley says. And when has Jane Pauley been wrong on anything? Carry on. So they call him in and they kind of do a meeting. And Pat Benatar says that she was upset when he first arrived because he didn't even bring a guitar with him. She's like, well, who is this jerk just sliding in here?
Right.
Yeah. But he came in and she loved his guitar playing. He loved her singing.
Mm-hmm.
And he sort of brings up the fact that his lifelong dream had always been to sort of find a singer and be able to work with the talent that they have and create a band, create a sound, because he knew he wasn't singing. So
right.
And so his dreams just sort of kind of fell into his lap right there.
Yeah.
Hey, here's this lady who's just been signed.
They just kind of matched up in all those magic ways. And and that's how they tell that story too, where they kind of fell in love at first sight, if that's a thing.
Yeah.
Musically and otherwise, even though they didn't address the otherwise until a little later.
A little bit later.
But
when they first meet, they're both...
It's got to be hard to resist.
Are they both married at that point?
She is.
Married.
No, he is not. He was not.
He's not.
No.
But I'd heard that he was with...
He was young. He was like super young. He was like only 19 years old.
Wow.
He's younger than her. So.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know who his girlfriend was at the time?
No.
Linda Blair.
Oh, yeah, Linda Blair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did kind of know that,
From
actually.
The Exorcist.
In the back of my mind.
It burns! Oh, it burns!
But that's the other weird trivia is that Linda Blair had I don't know what her deal was with rock and rollers, but she also had lived with, for a long time, Rick Springfield.
Really?
At age like 16. And I'm a Rick fan too, but Rick's personal life is not something I am that proud of. But that in that day, all that kind of weird stuff was happening. But anyway, I think Rick even like got her signed over from her parents to live with him.
Really?
Yeah, as a teenager. So it is kind of wacky. But so I'm assuming through that rock and roll grapevine, she met all these guys because Neil and Rick, they're friends as well.
Yeah.
And Neil plays the guitar solo on Jesse's Girl, which is such a great, a great trivia.
It's a super great trivia. I just discovered that he also played guitar and bass at least on.
Everything. Yeah, my
Which
fave.
do you know who wrote that song?
Sammy Hagar.
Sammy Hagar. I learned so many things.
I know. Somehow I like that one. It's my favorite. I like a couple Sammy Hagar songs, but when you know it's Sammy Hagar, all of a sudden you can you're like, that's a Sammy Hagar song. The way it's just a repetitive chorus that the lyrics are just ridiculously simple. Yeah. But that's the beauty of Sammy Hagar.
Totally. And then you think about, I feel like that it's just like I Can't Drive 55, like the regular part. Exactly. It's just one chord.
That's what I mean.
Whatever.
Well, my favorite Hagar song is Your Love Is Driving Me Crazy. Your love is driving me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
It is so ridiculous and pop, and I love it. But it's the same words over and over.
Yeah.
It has no narrative or content.
He's got a thing.
He has had a life,
quite a life. Continues
and
to.
career, and he still does. Yeah.
Good for him. Yeah, he's all of his dreams came true.
All of his dreams.
And continue to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, all right. So
we
now
digress.
and regress. Let's get back into it. So,
yeah.
Where are we at?
She meets Neil. They get hooked up into this band to put together her first album.
The first record, which features, they have one single. What's that first single that comes out before Heartbreaker? That's not as good.
We Live for Love.
We Live for Love.
Yeah. That song was always on, and it doesn't sound really like, that first album is really like a lot of first albums at that time where they were obviously employing songwriters and like grabbing, maybe she can do this. Maybe she'll be this.
Yeah.
Maybe she can do disco. Maybe she can do country a little, and they were trying to find out what she could do. And you could just tell on that record, it's so eclectic, but that's why I love it.
Yeah.
But it's very eclectic and odd. It is not a bunch of heartbreakers.
Yeah.
It's not heartbreak. It's not like that.
Yeah.
So I love singing that album. And that's one of the shows I've done a lot is singing that whole album because I love all the different, getting the challenge of singing it is fun.
Sure.
It's really fun.
Also features that John Cougar Mellencamp
song.
I Need a Lover.
Yeah, which I love too.
Did she release it first? Or did John Cougar release it first?
I'm not sure about releasing it. I've heard his version a lot, so I don't on the radio.
The radio's been playing.
I'm
his
not
version
sure.
often
That's a good question.
Here's some answers for you. I Need a Lover was the debut single from John Mellencamp. Was on his album A Biography, an album that was never released in the United States. Back when he was known as Johnny Cougar, it became an Australian top 40 hit. And so when Johnny changed his name to John Cougar and made his debut U.S. album, they included the song on there and also released it as a single. And it also charted in the United States, number 28 on the Billboard Hot 100. 79, same year that Pat Benatar releases her record In the Heat of the Night, and apparently got significant radio airplay. Carry on. So then they finally release Heartbreaker.
Yeah.
Not written by those guys.
Yeah.
Written by another band called, I forget. Heartbreaker was written by Jeff Gill and Cliff Wade. And I went and looked these guys up, and there's not much more to report other than these two guys were in some of the worstly named bands I've ever heard. One guy sang in Fickle Pickle. And if you think that's bad, then the two of them were in the Beaver Brothers. Get your heads out of the gutters, Beaver Brothers. Oh, I forgot. I interrupted the conversation so I can play you the original version of Heartbreaker recorded in 1978 by Jenny Daring. Listen. There's a very
especially
weird
drumming.
bridge.
The drumming,
Yeah,
it's really hard.
It's like
Most drummers I work with will say to me that obviously was done in the studio and someone was on cocaine.
Yeah.
That's what they always say.
Yeah, or else they just cut the tape in the middle and put it together. Like, it's too long, let's make it shorter. I don't care how it lines up.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, so great song. So, and then, but it does feature, the Neil Giraldo song.
Neil Giraldo.
And
We Live for Love, which I do love, but it's different for sure.
Yeah. So then we segue after that. We already have a hit record on our hands here, right? Not too bad.
Started off pretty good. She already started off pretty darn good.
Pretty darn good. And so like the wheels are falling off of each other's relationships. It is said that as Linda Blair actually cheats on Neil, Neil
maybe with Rick again. Who knows?
Could be.
Yeah.
Oh, it burns.
Apparently, Neil confides in Pat about how terrible. Oh, I can't believe that she cheated on me. And Pat Benatar is like, "All right, time to cut off this piece of dead wood." in Dennis Benatar.
Oh,
but you do have to admit, he did give her a great last name.
That's what I always say. It's almost like it was all set up again perfectly for her.
Yeah,
she never would have made it with her original name.
Yeah, she would have
that
to change
we can't even pronounce, even though we know. Yeah. And I don't want to.
Which makes me think back to another little tidbit. She kind of had a famous look of wearing like this tiger print leotard. She apparently had wore that for one of a Halloween costume.
Yes.
She was dressing up for. Do you remember
Halloween?
Catch
a Rising Star.
She was dressing
another club.
Cafe Figaro. Yeah, also in Greenwich Village.
Yeah,
right?
That's it.
And she was dressing up as a character in a B movie called Catwoman of the Moon.
Correct.
Something like that.
Yes.
And
correct.
And apparently she had to jump up on stage and do her song. And there was a connection there. She finally sort of found a look, like wearing this leotard. Yeah. Which for some reason, the word Benetard and leotard.
I know. I used to say Benetard.
It's kind of almost the same word.
Yeah. I used to have, when the internet, when the internet was invented, I used to think it would be great to have a group called the Benatards, but then everyone was offended by it, not of course realizing it was supposed to be leotard. I was just depressed that I couldn't use it. It didn't sound right. I understand it doesn't sound right. Don't write us letters.
Yes.
But I did love the idea of her launching a line of leotards called Benatards. I was like, this is it. I'm going to make her $1 million.
It's just sitting right there.
It was right there, but yet so close, but yet so far
away.
Politically not correct. Well, sorry, but I love the idea.
It's a great idea.
Her look is part of what made her who she is and interesting. But again, the irony to me is for someone who had this distinct leotard trademark signature thing going on the album, the first album cover, she's in that ballet, the whole thing. The second one, she's in ballet. The first one, she's in a leotard with a skirt on. But the point is and she was so tiny. And so all this, she just looked awesome and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And, but when you see who she is as a person, it's almost, I kind of really believe her when when it's kind of like I had to put this outfit on to become this stage persona, because as a person, or if you ever hear her talk or just about her life, it wasn't like she was wearing those leotards to go to the grocery store.
Sure.
Whereas other rock chicks like Joan Jett or even Debbie Harry, you felt those identities and what they were wearing is who they were, and they were wearing those clothes all the time.
Sure.
It's a weird little thing about her because she wasn't overtly sexual, yet those were the clothes of the time that worked for her. But I think it led her to some of the problems she had based on her own autobiography and stuff about being treated a certain way in the music industry.
Yeah.
But without Neil, she probably would have been abused in some way like everyone else was. But I think
right.
He was, it's lucky he was around, or I think she would have had a different story.
Yeah, I think so. Though she's always been, from what I can tell, pretty tough.
No, she is. And I just think she's a person who doesn't care so much about the fame and the glamour of it. I mean, even to this day. And that's what makes her, in a weird way, the same reason why at some point, maybe some people, I don't know about you, but maybe some people were like, she's just not cool. I mean, she's not a cool rocker, but over time, right? She's lasted the test of time, looks fantastic, and has kept her integrity of who she is. And maybe in the end, that's tougher and cooler.
Sure. Yeah.
Than trying to be cool.
I mean, it probably goes along the line of like just not having a controversial life for anybody to talk about. Like all she's had is the music.
That's right. And she's authentic about it, though, as opposed to some people. So she wasn't ever living a dual life, which is, maybe why she never also, though, didn't rise to the level of her peers in terms of becoming a visual icon or a style icon. She's just been underplayed and underappreciated all these years, which is why I'm so thrilled about.
Totally. She's had to wear a lot of hats. I mean, she has been brave enough that, every album sort of progresses.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
They've always had an idea to
the first four are like amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, for sure. And we start getting into like Shadows of the Night, which is and We
Fantastic.
Belong.
Oh,
Is just this dance song. I don't want to just gloss over her whole catalog, but I mean, if you look at everything in sort of like a greatest hits package, it plays more like a compilation.
Sure.
But there is her voice, which is undeniably amazing.
It's singular and it's unique. It doesn't sound like anyone else.
Yeah.
There's so many different, I analyze this constantly. I don't know why, because I'm a weirdo, but I always think about singers and bands, like what makes a great singer versus a great front person versus, there's all those different categories.
Yep.
And I have really come to the conclusion that even if I look at my own loves of my rock life, the commonality for me is usually a good or great singer. I don't tend to like atonal or just total punk rock singers. That's not my thing. I like melodic rock.
I'm with you.
But I do like a lot of bands with just a really strong front person. And I really, when I analyze it, I don't end up caring I don't care. Like I need the songwriter to sing the song. That isn't what really matters. It's the power of the combination of the song and the singer and the band and the production. If that's working, who cares who's doing what?
Sure.
But in their case, I think what I learned was I used to be the opposite. I used to be like, why is Neil? Get Neil out of here. Pat Benatar's name is everything. Who does he think he is? Right. Yeah. But you have to learn because, I was more feminist about it, but I was also feminist about it. Like, why does she need to put his name up there and all that stuff? And then I would hear their interviews and then I learned more about how their whole process in this story that we're talking about. And of course, it makes total sense now.
I mean, when I heard that he was getting inducted along with her, like with the names and everything, I was initially offended. It's like, how come you can't just let Pat have her day?
Right. And that's how I used to think about it when they started doing their shared billing, because my mind was, it's Pat Benatar. I knew it. It's an act. It's a band. It's a whole entity.
Yeah.
I never thought they had to be called out. But because they're married and because let's face it, he truly is a production wizard. And so without him, most of those songs and the arrangements and obviously the guitar, let alone that I enjoyed looking at him as well. Then it all it makes sense to me now. And I'm glad they're both getting in and absolutely for Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I think their name should be in there. Yeah. I just at the beginning, like for merchandising and stuff, I just thought they went a little far where when she was being underappreciated for many, many, many years, where people don't even mention her name, and I would do the tribute show and I would just get all these people saying, oh my God, thank you. Because it's ridiculous when other women of the 80s are on t-shirts at department stores as we speak. H&M, Forever 21 has images of Cher and Blondie and Joan Jett. Pat Benatar is notably missing. So she has missed, I would say, years of merchandising and sort of that the imagery and creating a brand. Yeah. She didn't do well creating a brand all those years. And it looks like now it's turning around. Yeah. So good for her. Even it may have taken a while, but good for her.
Yeah. Interesting that it didn't. I mean, she
had everything
like
there.
She did. Like the label had, had that haircut. I mean,
Linda, that girl looks just like Pat Benatar.
I know. Wait, there are 3 girls here at Richmond who are cultivating the Pat Benatar look.
She didn't have long hair.
Yeah.
I mean, in those days, it's like you can't even imagine. Of course, I remember when I listened to a lot of hair metal, and the first time that I saw the band Extreme, the drummer had short hair. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? I didn't think you were legally allowed to.
What's wrong with
for
you?
A drummer even, you know what I mean?
Is that a wig?
Is the regular drummer sick?
Yeah, she didn't go with the trends at that point either. And, but I think there's a funny thing with her about hair too. I could do a podcast about Pat Benatar's hair. But, and because I've analyzed it, I think her trademark that I wish she had stuck with longer was the pixie rock chick hair from You Better Run. That's the image everybody has, the spandex pants, the striped shirt, and her famous ankle boots, right?
Yeah.
I think that's her ultimate iconic look of all time. Mm-hmm. And then in later years, when she did try to grow her hair and she went through the perms, like, by the way, I emulated her. And I once had the worst perm ever in high school, to where my mother had to lie and write a note to the school. And she said I had mono and I didn't go to school for
because your perm looks
3 days. Yeah, I had to go back to the beauty salon. They had to try to relax it. Yeah. And I did it just like hers. And hers is pretty bad. If you ever find a picture of the exact moment, she did a total curly perm and then left the bangs straight right here. Oh. I did the same thing. No, but I did the same thing. Okay. Well, guess what? First of all, I'm not Pat Benatar, so I'm already behind, right? I'm already not making it. Sure. And then on top of it, on my wide check face, not working. Yeah. And I literally cried. I cried for days. Like, my friend and my boyfriend had to come over and be like in my room, like consoling me for days. It was horrifying. So she's responsible for that trauma, but she had some
there was a lot of
she had some bad moments because
because
get back to the original. I don't think she was living the rock life. So therefore she didn't have the organic style influences. And that's what it is. It's like if you're not in the scene and you're not making the rounds and you're not out at clubs, you're not going to look cool just walking around. So I think she was being styled in all of these album covers and things. And it didn't always work. But those early years were the best. There's no doubt. Like, you can't beat her.
Yeah. My mom was a beautician and she would do perms for other people in her house.
Oh my!
It is the worst smell. I would rather smell like a dead body.
Wow, we're having... Well, wait, be careful what you say there. Be careful. Yeah, perms are so not in that I almost think it's funny how they just kind of disappeared. Although I think secretly I have heard whispers at salons I'm in where they'll be like, well, we still do body perms for people and stuff. And I'm always like, what? I've never heard of this. So I had no idea if they're still doing it, but it sure isn't visible. Maybe there's a secret like black market for perms and you have to go to secret locations.
They'll come back. I mean, mustaches came back.
Well, if hair metal hair would come back, I'd be happy. But I don't know if that, without the music, I don't know if it works.
Yeah, that's true.
We didn't mention that Crimes of Passion is the second album where You Better Run lives. And, that's her biggest album ever.
Hit Me With Your Best Shots.
Yeah, that's her biggest album because of that single, which I hate. And also she hates too.
Yeah. Do you think she's
now not singing it anymore?
Is she using that as an excuse to not sing
absolutely.
anymore? Yeah.
Because for all the years I've seen her, she tours almost every summer. Even when no one knew it. Right. Yeah. At tiny places. And I'd be like, it's Pat Benatar. And everyone was like, she's still around. That era. No, she would always preface it with, I hate this song. I'm not going to sing the lipstick notch line. So you guys will sing it. Cause she hated that. The lyrics are so horrible, really, Yeah. And so, I knew she hated it. I hate it. I get asked to sing it all the time at karaoke nights or at people's, events.
Sure.
Birthday. That's the song they select for me. And then they're like, here, Cathy's. And I'm like, please, anything but that. Because it's just corny. But whatever. It worked, right? And it's still a big hit. And I think it is maybe the number one female karaoke track of all time. Yeah. Still, I think so.
Makes sense.
One of them anyway.
Yeah.
So and that album is amazing. And I have performed that one in entirety and it's just nonstop, and again, it does have those soft, we were just talking about, she had those soft, amazing songs where she got to use her falsetto.
Yeah.
And they're stuck in there. And, that was the time when we all sat and listened to record albums with a record player.
Absolutely.
So my memories of those first albums are very much tied to a record player. And that does change how you hear music and what you do with it. And you know how you would hit the end of the album and then turn it over. So I always say in my show, the track that at the time didn't make sense to me, I hated it. And I hated singing it because it's super hard, is Wuthering Heights.
Yeah,
and,
Kate Bush.
Yeah, and I didn't know who was Kate Bush at that time? Nobody, to me. I mean,
Totally,
hello, Winter Park, Florida, everyone.
100%.
And Google it. And I had no clue, right? So it was weird. The song didn't fit anything about that album or her, other than showing off her operatic voice.
I'm coming back, love, cool heat flip, my one dream, my only master. Too long I roam in the night. I'm coming back to her side to put it right. I'm coming home to Wuthering Heights. It's me.
So, I mean, many years later, right, to college or whatever, when I hear Kate Bush and that song comes on, I just started laughing. Because then when I heard her do it in her kooky, crazy Kate Bush way. I go, well, that makes sense. Yeah. That way, now this whole drama makes sense. But I thought it was funny that, someone had selected it and said to Neil, probably like, make this work. Yeah. And then she's singing it very straight, and I found it funny now, but I used to literally pick up, I always say it in the show, like I would just pick up the needle. That was the one track. Yeah. You know how every album, that's true, right? Most albums, there's one track at least that you used to just, even classic albums, there's one that you just personally don't like. It doesn't mean it's bad.
Of course.
But you were
sort of forced to listen to it unless you were willing to stand up and go over the record player.
Yeah,
for sure.
So that's my memory of that.
I feel like there's like a lot of soundtracks that way. I would listen to
remember
the Footloose soundtrack and
God, so much horrible stuff in there.
And the Flashdance soundtrack.
And all the John Hughes, Pretty in Pink and all those.
Yeah, let me take a moment and then let's listen to one of those soundtrack songs right now, baby. Woo! Got that sax rocking.
I feel your heart.
Feel it.
It's beating time with mine. Ooh. Yeah, but love is on the line.
On the line. This is the last song on the Footloose soundtrack. They don't write them like this anymore. Hot. Okay.
There was always bad ones.
Yeah. But also great. I mean, John
and so many good ones. Yeah.
I mean, John Hughes, he should be a subject as well.
Yeah.
Like he just brought in all this underground music into like the forefront of these things that have given like OMD an entire lifespan that otherwise it
would never have.
Yeah. So but anyways, I digress. That Pat Benatar haircut.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's the iconic one. But I do want to give a little shout out that I have been putting it all over the interweb that her latest hair is fantastic, where she let it go gray, she let it go straight.
Good for her.
It's got bangs and long. And so Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the photos from that, she looks amazing.
Awesome.
And I'm so excited because I really want her to kick everyone's ass, and I can't wait that's why this is a timely podcast.
Yeah.
What's the date? 2 days. 2 days from now, they're going to show that concert on HBO. So
awesome.
This is the first year I'm actually going to sit and wait and watch it in excitement to see Eurythmics and her and Duran Duran and Dolly Parton.
It's crazy.
And Judas Priest. I mean, it's the craziest, best year ever. Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah.
It's true. I don't know if you've ever watched the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They put it on HBO every year. This year is fantastic. There is not a dull moment or performance throughout the whole thing. Also, starting out with a killer performance with Pat Benatar. So, when you're done with this, check that out. Back to the show. Absolutely. I think she does okay. I'd sort of heard that, in her later years, now that her and Neil have the rights to everything that they're doing. Like anything they put out is on their own record label. They're not going through Crystal's. They say they're making more money now off of their recordings than they did back in the day because they just had like crappy labels and
bad deals, like most people in that era. Yeah. But they were always like rebels. They went off on their own pretty soon in the 90s where they were on independent labels, and I'm sure that wasn't always by choice. But then they had their own music company, and they had their own manager, and avoided all the major agents and stuff. So, for better or worse, because that's partially why what we were just talking about. She was never an insider in the music industry.
Yeah,
but that's one of the reasons when you go your own way like that. You pay the price in terms of visibility, brand, and all those things that keep a lot of artists going with. Merchandise and graphic, representation in all kinds of different ways. So that's why we don't see her T-shirt at Forever 21 and H&M, but that's too bad. And I hope that changes because I want to buy that.
For all of time, though, if you put on Classic Rock Radio,
there she is.
In an hour, you're going to hear a Pat Benatar song.
I know.
In any number, and there isn't just one. That's the great thing. But she's got so many hits,
lots of hits.
She's coming. She's coming to the front of the line because she has a great voice. Undeniably.
No one ever. There's not one person who ever said that was not the case. So that's, of course. And that's hard. It's hard to find a singer that everyone acknowledges as a good singer.
Yeah.
It's like Steve Perry. It's like, she kind of goes with him to me in that way for a female, that rock singer. I mean, there's other singers like Whitney Houston. That's a different category.
And there's a look about her, like her delivery. And I don't know if it's like just in her video, like the way that she sings in a video, the way that she just really like captures that. It's like she's yelling at you.
Yeah, she's tough and she's very serious and tough. That's her.
Yeah.
I think that works. And I don't even know how intentional that is. Because like she was saying, I think she becomes that persona by singing those songs. Because I don't think that's how she is when you're just talking to her. Sure. Although I can see her she gets sassy. I love her because you can tell she's a sassy
she
woman.
does in real life.
And I love her.
Slaps somebody in the industry, I know.
Yeah, there's no doubt she's
at least.
Yeah.
One.
And I love that about her too. And
she kind of reminds me of like a hockey mom. Like she's very sweet. She has hot chocolate for everybody, but as soon as she gets into those stands,
like she's
like
maybe so. Yeah. Too bad she had two girls, Hollywood girls, I might add.
Hollywood girls?
Probably never played hockey in their lives. Yeah, they're very LA.
Are they?
Oh yeah, that's another show.
How old are they? Yeah,
they're how old are they? Wow, I think one of them's almost 40. And the other ones would be in her early 30s.
Yeah.
And she's having grandkids now. These last few years, the oldest one's had, I think, now 2 or 3 kids. So they're on Instagram. So I follow them just to keep up with what's happening in
that's good.
In the Giraldo household.
Yeah. Neil Giraldo.
Wait, Cathy could pronounce his name correctly the whole time? Ugh. Here I am with egg on my face. Hey, there's another thing I forgot to mention. We both forgot to mention. Pat Benatar actually calls her husband, Neil Giraldo, Spider. I don't know why. Oh, and Neil Giraldo calls Pat Benatar Patricia. Just so you know, if you're having dinner with them sometime. Carry on. Because you were sort of bringing up that point. The fact that Neil and Pat had each other on the road is, I mean, as far as like the stability of a person,
right?
To have the person that you love and want to be with all the time on the road while you're going through,
stress
this very
and
difficult navigating.
And rises to fame and all of that.
Yeah, rises and drops and
drops,
just, I mean, just the life of being on the road is a tricky one.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people succumb to a lot of, crutches,
and
devices.
Vices. Yeah.
And it's.
But I think that's part of it too. Like maybe who knows what would have happened if they hadn't been together doing it, because they didn't have those temptations and things, because that's the person they were with the whole time.
Yeah.
It helps you.
They had somebody to accountable for that.
Yeah, and it saves you from those other things, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Being around. And it's also different that they both do the music. So, in all other rock relationships, they usually end let's face it, most rock and roll marriages are end. I mean, there's multiple relationships, but that's because usually one of them's touring, right, and one of them isn't.
Yeah,
I mean that's what it is. That's just
unless you're in Aerosmith.
Like
Apparently, they were really big about having their wives come along.
Okay, well, they've got a lot of other problems that have nothing to do with wives.
That's true,
and probably multiple wives. But yeah, they have a lot of other problems. But I'm just saying that I think the distance is always the number one stressor for relationships, so they avoided all of that by default.
By default,
you know.
Yeah,
but they are interesting. They don't. Even Neil, he did a couple. You know, he's worked with some other people, but seems content to just sort of, do the Benatar thing.
He likes his place
because he didn't really. I mean, he could have gone off and you know what I'm saying. He could have at any point said, "I'm going to play guitar. I'm going to be the guest guitarist and tour with some other rock band."
Sure,
I'm going to go out with Foreigner or
he
whoever.
Did a little bit of that. He did some producing,
but very little compared to what he could have done. Is all I'm saying. If he wanted to, he obviously didn't want to. He's happy but that's an interesting choice as well. But one of my favorites is I am a huge John Waite fan, and he produced John Waite's first solo album, Ignition, and I love that album.
Really?
And I didn't know even though I was their hugest fans, even in the 80s. I didn't know. I mean, I think I read it on the album. You know, when you used to read the back of the album.
Yeah, I
read it on the back of the album, but I don't think consciously connected it till much later, like in life, where I was like, oh my God, wait a minute, Yeah. And I was so excited to find that out, and that he played on my favorite John Waite song, but is also one of my top pop rock songs of all history, is "Change" by John Waite. Boop. There we go.
That's my alarm.
There we go.
We have some. We have a casserole to eat.
Yum!
Let me take it out.
Wait. Okay. Oh my God.
Okay. We are sitting in front of a tater tot casserole.
Oh my God. I never heard of this before, but I can't tell you how excited I am.
I never heard of it either. I frequently like to interject other little facts about bands in order to possibly create a different type of dish that's going to be more reflective on what it is that they did.
Okay.
As I'd said, my initial thought was a tater tot casserole, which your traditional tater tot casserole is ground beef, cream of mushroom soup, onion, and the vegetable I heard is typically like canned green beans.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I've never had this in my life.
Me either. But so this one, I found a recipe for a kielbasa cabbage tater tot casserole. And I made some alterations. And so essentially the way to do this is you start with 4 slices of bacon. So you're already off to a good start. Fry that up. And once it's crispy, you take the bacon out, you keep a couple of tablespoons of the fat, and then you dice up 1 yellow onion and cook that for about 3 minutes. After that, you add a chopped up cabbage. I used savory cabbage, which it looks a little sexier than your typical green cabbage. From there, I sauteed that for another 5 minutes along with a large pinch of red pepper flakes, a couple teaspoons of caraway seed or fennel seed, if you will.
I can taste that.
Yeah, salt and pepper.
So good.
Yeah, the caraway seed actually really comes through. Salt and pepper, and then after that cooks for about 5 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes. I had a lid on. Oh, and I also had an idea. I wanted more vegetables, so I ended up putting in a green pepper as well. So there's green pepper. From there, you dice up your kielbasa. I used about a pound, 16 ounces of kielbasa chopped up. Threw that in there along with the crumpled up pieces of bacon. Now at this point, the recipe that I saw did not include any condensed soup. Now, to me, it's not a casserole if it doesn't have condensed soup. No, I mean, that's
the flavor. It's all about flavor.
Why else does condensed soup exist? Nobody just makes a bowl of cream of mushroom soup. So I tell you what, I labored. I opened up a can and I looked at it and I was looking at my food and I'm like, are these going to work? And then I kind of did a little tasting and I decided yes. So I threw in a can of cream of mushroom soup.
It's working.
It is, right? We mixed it all together. Then at that point, I put on a cup and a half of shredded cheddar cheese. And then you top it with a layer of tater tots. After your tater tots are evenly placed, I put on another cup of cheddar cheese. From there, throw it in the oven. If you're doing it in real time, it says you should take about 15 minutes. As soon as your tater tots are crisped up, then you're ready to go. This one I had more of a space in between when I put the tater tots on and when I had my base cabbage, I guess, bottom layer. So it had cooled down. So it took a little bit longer in the oven to cook. So we gave it another 15 minutes and it came out, looks great, smells great. The tater tots are nice and crispy, which is very important.
I've already eaten half of it while he was talking, and all right. I hope you heard me.
How about I eat a little bit, and you give me your thoughts on this.
I would just say this reminds me of some kind of bizarre recipe in the suburbs, and I'm surprised I've never heard of it. No. But obviously, it didn't hit Florida because I would know. But it must be maybe perhaps a little regional, this kind of tater tot casserole idea. I don't know.
You never had a tater tot casserole?
I mean, for real. And I would think, honestly, when you live in Central Florida, you have experienced, I thought, almost all kinds of good housekeeping recipe types of, suburban wife tips kind of foods. But this was not one of them. And it's lovely and fantastic. And you feel like you're eating something authentically ethnic, but yet then you stick the tater tots and cheese on top and you're like, let's just go to Coney Island and call it a day. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of got a mix of all of that.
It's kind of like, how are we going to get the kids to eat this? I know, put tater tots on top.
Yeah.
We win.
But it still has that caraway, gives it that German feel, sauerkraut feel, which I love.
I mean, this really combines all of
fantastic.
these
I'm going to have this again, so I'm going to get the recipe from you.
Absolutely. I mean, I've never had anything like this before. Tons of tater tot casserole. I mean, casseroles were huge where I grew up in Wisconsin and Minnesota. And then there's a debate. I think in Minnesota they call it a hot dish, and here in Wisconsin they call it a casserole. Wow. But you've got, a bunch of casseroles, your tuna fish casserole. But this is kind of to me, the base level, every church function. You're going to have some deviled eggs and some Jell-O, and someone's going to bring a tater tot casserole.
I missed out. I missed out on so many ways, by the way.
What, when you think of Florida typical, housewife food, what was your regularly served items?
Well, first of all, I do want to say it also appeals to the Czech side of me because my other similarity with Pat Benatar is my dad was Czech. And so I have Czechoslovakian and then on one side, and then my mom was a mix of European things.
You know what? I'm Czech too.
Yeah. No way.
Yeah. I went to Czechoslovakia Czech Republic over the pandemic searching for my relatives.
That's amazing.
The Palanova.
Oh, I was going to ask you what the name was.
Yeah,
I knew it wasn't. Okay, yeah. Interesting.
So,
but I'm saying so this food, I'm genetically predisposed to Eastern European food. Mm-hmm. And so I would say, I don't know that I had the typical suburban food upbringing because my parents were pretty worldly in terms of food. My dad was in the military, traveled around. My mother traveled as well. And so we were honestly eating almost more international foods, if I think about it. Probably intentionally, they were trying to introduce me to different countries' foods. So I think I feel lucky in that way because they were actually actively involved with cooking and doing things.
Yeah.
But when you were out in the world and went to PTA meetings and all these things, just because I want to say PTA meeting, even though I don't know if I ever went to one. Not tater tot casseroles, though. I mean, maybe tuna casseroles, yes. Green bean casseroles, are always in that mix, like at a Thanksgiving dinner also with the onion crisps. Everybody loves the onion rings.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I remember about that.
Those exist for green bean
And then I
casseroles.
remember more of, when we all talk about, and maybe because you're from the Midwest too, but I mean, we ate all those fantastic, healthy, grocery store staples like Hamburger Helper,
Oh, tons. We lived off of that stuff.
Because no one cared about health. We weren't health conscious.
My folks split up when I was about 10. Mm-hmm. And I've got two younger siblings. And so largely the cooking responsibilities ended up on my shoulders.
Oh, wow.
But so most things that we had started with a pound of ground beef.
Right.
And from there you can make sloppy joes, or you can there's
That's
a ton
another
of
one, yeah.
or tacos. Yeah. You open up the packet but tons of hamburger helper. That was like twice a week we were eating hamburger helper.
Yeah.
I wonder if I would still like it. I'm sure I would. It's delicious.
I used to make it in college or right after college years.
Yeah.
And I think I've actually have made it more recently. I have a friend named Daryl who makes it and eats it regularly.
Yeah.
He's the king of sort of supermarket specials, Oh, yeah. So he likes all those already prepared foods kind of vibe where you do like two things. So he's reintroduced me to some of those things.
Too much salt in that prepared food. That's the one thing
that's what they say.
There's plenty. I'm sure there's plenty of salt in this with the kielbasa. My dad, when my folks split up, my dad would make kielbasa with canned potatoes. You ever heard
Never did that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just because like canned potatoes, they're soft. I think they're already sliced up, so you just can throw them in a skillet. And everything you just kind of like heat it up to the temperature you want to eat it at. Sure. It's not like you've got to cook any of that stuff. Yeah. It's pretty good. I mean, that was my introduction to kielbasa.
I didn't even know there was. I don't think I've ever thought of canned potatoes like in my entire life until this moment.
That was the only time I ever had them.
Really? Never thought about it.
I wonder if you can get them here. I guess here they're more into pierogies. Because this is a Polish neighborhood, everybody, that I live in. So I'm surrounded by Polish bakeries and butchers and all that stuff.
As I was driving here.
It's kind of lovely, but it's kind of dangerous too. But it is nice that I can get like the most gigantic can of sauerkraut for $1 at any given time, because that's big in my family, at least as far as my son and I go. We'll put sauerkraut in just about anything.
Yeah, I know.
Big fan.
Oh, I love me too.
Yeah,
me too.
God, this turned out so really good. I think the key is making sure that your tater tots are nice and crispy.
Yes.
So
that's what I like too.
Yeah, and so I don't know how good the reheated version of this is going to be, but as far as this goes, this is just about perfect.
I'm totally getting this recipe as I head back to Florida to share with my family.
Definitely, I'll put it together. I'll have to get it online too. I think.
Write it up.
Yeah, the Pat Benatar. I wonder if she would agree. One of the interviews that I saw is from them, because it seems like food comes up a lot when the two of them are together. They talk about it. I think St. Patty's Day was coming up really soon, and Neil was like, "Oh, I can't wait till tomorrow. We're going to have corned beef."
Okay.
And I know Pat Benatar has said that we are very much a meat-eating family, which surprises me now to hear more about their daughters.
Yeah, yeah.
That they don't look like they eat a bunch of meat. Yeah,
weight conscious.
Yeah. So awesome.
Yeah.
All right. With that, I think let's finish this up off mic, because this food is starting to get a little cold. It's super delicious. Thank you so much for coming over, Cathy.
Thank you so much. We finally did it.
Finally. Let's do it again. I mean, we talked about some other great artists I'd love to talk about
let's throw it out. Yeah.
Awesome.
Or let's just eat.
Thanks
Bye,
again.
everybody.
Cheers. Bye.
Benatar.
Benatar. I wonder where Dennis Benatar is these days. Anywho, thanks so much, Cathy, for sharing your in-depth knowledge with me. That was a great analysis and an interesting meal. Surprisingly delicious. Make one for your next hockey potluck. Tell me if you liked it. If you're in New York City and looking for something to do on Sunday, February 5th, 2023, my Pogues-influenced band, Dark Streets, is playing at Brooklyn Bowl with a Clash tribute band called Straight to Hell. They're playing all of London Calling in its entirety. We're playing the album Rum, Sodomy, and the Lash by the Pogues in its entirety. And it's going to be entirely a great time. Come out and party like it's 1979 or 1985, whichever. Next episode will be about Dinosaur Jr. I'll get it out as soon as I can, I promise. Until then, this is Nathan Palin saying cook on and rock out. Ciao, ciao.